Thanks for the chair. Good morning to all. Thank you for coming to my talk. I'm here to give a presentation of KZN wildlife. Sorry, can you hear me? Yes, I'm here to give a presentation on KZN wildlife's 50-year involvement with turtles and turtle conservation. I must tell you, though, that I've only been involved for the past 6 or so years, so you cannot ask me questions on this. I'll start off with these graphs of nesting success. I generally give them at the end of the talk. I'll start them off now just to give you an idea of the nesting success we've been experiencing with leatherback and loggerhead turtles. The top graph refers to the nesting loggerheads. And for the duration of the program, we see a remarkable recovery in the number of nesting turtles, nesting events, rather. Especially in the last decade or so, it's practically a year-on-year increase in the number of nests laid. So they're responding remarkably well to the conservation effort. Leatherbacks at the bottom, they do not seem to be doing as well. Their numbers are generally orders of magnitude lower than what we get for loggerheads. They have an up and down sort of variable appearance, nesting history. But at least they are not in steady decline. Their numbers are what we consider to be stable. When you consider that the program started with less than 10 nests in the beginning, and we are now around the 400 mark, it's actually very good news. Likewise, for the loggerheads, we started off with about 400 or so nests, and now it's peaking at around 3,500. What these graphs do not convey, though, is the massive amount of work, the dedication, the effort that was put into the program in order to get us to where we are right now. The rest of my talk is not going to be a scientific one, so we're not going to see any more graphs and fancy diagrams like what the previous speakers have been giving. But it's literally to talk about the directed conservation effort that was put towards conserving turtles, to acknowledge all the hard work that was done by our conservation managers, by students and staff, volunteers, everybody, in order to get us to where we are right now. And of course, try to somehow convey the satisfaction of being part of an effort that realized successful turtle conservation. So how did it all start? Back in the back in the early 60s, the then Natal Parks Board started getting reports of turtles using the beaches of Maputo land in the northern KZN coast to come and nest. More disturbingly, though, is that these turtles were being slaughtered as they were coming ashore. Very swift action was taken. The Natal Parks Board authorized a survey of the area, and they immediately recognized that these animals need to be protected in terms of at the time, the Natal Fisheries Ordinance. I've just included this little map in here. This is from one of the early reports that came out from one of the early reports, and shows the nesting area before it was proclaimed as an MPA or a World Heritage Site now. One of the first recommendations that came out from the initial work was that the area be granted sanctuary status, specifically for the protection of turtles. In the 70s, the St. Lucia Marine Protected Area was declared. In the 80s, the Maputo Land Marine Protected Area was declared. And in the 90s, the area received World Heritage Site status, with those two MPAs being key components of it. So that undoubtedly, the turtles did contribute to the development of one of South Africa's first World Heritage Sites. So the response was led by a group of Natal Parks Board staff, including Humph McAllister, Dr. George Hughes, Henny van Schoor, John Bell, and our field staff as well, with the objective of tagging as many turtles as possible. But the overall objectives were the following: to protect the adults, hatchlings, and eggs of both the species from all forms of exploitation while patrolling, to gather data on their behavior, to start and maintain a tagging program in order to estimate the population size. With this new population size estimate, they would have started considering a form of consumptive harvesting if 500 loggerhead numbers were reached and 200 leatherback numbers were reached. Of course, only if a demand existed. This objective has long fallen away. It's never been realized. And the program is wholly geared towards their conservation. So what did they do? There were not many options available to the early turtle monitors when they first started. They knew they had to tag and mark animals. So they started with red spray paint, which did not work very well. They then went on to cattle tags, rotary tags, which is good for cattle, but it was met with very limited success here. And eventually we went on to the titanium tags, which are now being used. They were a very enthusiastic bunch. They measured all parameters, everything possible, flipper lengths, carapace thickness, everything. But very importantly as well, they documented all the nesting behavior, the nesting ecology of these animals. And that formed the basis of how we now manage turtles. It also went into international best practice. Our monitoring methodologies are also used in other countries around the region. Loggerhead had also even weighed by hanging them upside down from a spring balance, which, yeah, they found it to be around 100 kgs, and thankfully this was not tried for leatherbacks. But the strength of a leatherback was controversially established, and it was found that it could move the weight of a man. But yeah, this as well is totally illegal now, so you don't worry about that. Oh. This is my favorite place, the research shack at Banganek, developed specifically for the turtle project, survived many storm surges, erosion events, and still functions today as the Turtle Research Center at Banganek, where the surveys are based from. So another important development of the program is allowed a dedicated field presence at the site to protect turtles. As time went on to the 70s, the monitors started to get information as to where the adult hatchlings, the adult turtles were going to, as flipper tag recoveries started coming in from the northern African countries. The next question was, where do the hatchlings go to? So the next project was to tag hatchlings. Once again, different tags were tried. It's a plastic, I think a trout tag, which wasn't very effective. They even injected a steel wire into the carapace of a loggerhead turtle to try to see, yeah, but okay, yeah, let's say the better. The final tagging method that was settled on was a form of mutilation tagging called notching, where the distal scutes of the loggerheads were removed in certain combinations, such that those combinations matched the year of hatching. And three very important findings were made from this. The first one being, the first one being that the role of the Agulhas current in the distribution of these animals was confirmed rather, when these hatchlings started washing down on the eastern Cape Coast. The next thing was that the hatchlings come back as adults to nest on the same beaches. So protecting those beaches in perpetuity became even more critical. And thirdly, that the mean age at nesting was established to be around 21.6 years. Another great undertaking that was done in response to a threat to protect turtles, that should have been nest relocation, was, yes, the nest relocation program. In the early 80s, the Swazi government wanted to lay claim to the portions of the northern KZN, where it was claimed that part was incorporated illegally into South Africa in the mid-19th century. It was suspected that the Swazi government wanted access to the Indian Ocean and to have a deep water harbor at Kosi Bay to facilitate this. This would have meant the destruction of the loggerhead nesting hotspots at that area, and so began the great turtle nest relocation program, which continued for 10 years. That's Lionel van Schoor, for anyone that knows. So over 10 years, close to 200,000 eggs were translocated from the nesting hotspot to beaches of the southern sanctuary, the southern MPA. The main aim being to re-establish a hotspot at the bottom. Thankfully, that threat was averted, and the hotspot is maintained at the northern end. I believe they try to make a claim for it again, but now that the place has World Heritage Site status, hopefully that will also be averted. Another positive spin-off from total conservation is the rise in total tourism. Increased numbers means that greater opportunity for private business to take paying guests on total tours. Okay, let me just explain this picture quickly. Totals are not boxed in for the viewing pleasure of tourists. I do not have a decent picture of tourists, so this is just us containing a total to put in a satellite tag. But in the 90s, Ezemvelo facilitated the presence of 5 private sector companies to undertake total tours and allowed the local Tonga community to take walk-on tours on the total nesting hotspot north of Banganek. This tourism aspect still thrives up until today and highlights the value of total conservation as it sustains a viable tourism industry. Just quickly, the next step was regional total management. Our beach protection program was being shown to work really well. But as time went on, our flipper tag returns for loggerheads, as well as the recent satellite tracks from our loggerhead total, showed that we are only protecting one part of the total life cycle, and there's a regional management is required for loggerheads for effective conservation. This also applied to leatherbacks. Loggerheads dominate the entire Western Indian Ocean area. Leatherbacks as well in the Western Indian Ocean area. Penetration into the Atlantic and Southern Oceans as well. So yeah, conservation was stepped up a notch with regional management. It started with Dr. George Hughes, who coordinated an international meeting at Sodwana Bay in the early 90s. And out of that came the Sodwana Declaration, which effectively compels the governments of those countries that attended the workshop to provide official support for regional conservation of sea turtles. More recently, within the last decade, was the Indian Ocean Southeast Asian Memorandum of Understanding. These are the signatory states. There's 33 states of them. And this was led by Dr. Ronel Nell, who ensured that South Africa became a signatory to that MOU as well. And it is essentially the intergovernmental agreement that aims to protect, conserve, replenish, and recover marine turtles and their habitats of the Indian Ocean and Southeast Asian region, working in partnership with other relevant actors and organizations. So just quickly, some of our highlights and successes. Our last turtle season, the 49th one, that just finished, broke all records in terms of all the loggerhead parameters that we measured. We had the highest number of turtle emergences from the sea for loggerheads. We had the highest number of tags encountered. The distinct individuals of the tags that came out from there, 785, also the highest. And also the highest number of nests recorded in the last season. So the loggerheads are responding very well. Leatherback activity was actually the highest for the last decade. So like I said, we're not in constant decline. Yeah, but we had the highest number of tag encounters at least. But we cannot be complacent. There's turtles, irrespective of the conservation status, will always be conservation dependent. Monitoring is therefore important, especially as the shared South African Mozambique population are considered to be genetically distinct. If we lose that population, we're going to be losing important genetic diversity. Additionally, the annual monitoring program is very expensive. The last season cost close to 500,000 rand for the survey. And there are questions as to whether it's justified. I say yes. We see the results. They speak for themselves. Loggerheads have increased more than 3 times since the inception of the program, and leatherbacks remain stable they've increased, remaining stable despite global declines. So we know that 5 decades of our dedicated conservation is working. That's good news for us. It also now provides a truly sustainable alternative to harvesting. The sustainable use is now in the provision of employment for turtle monitors and jobs for turtle tour operators rather than killing them. Additionally, the South African Conservation Program is considered to be best practice. We have 200 kilometers of nesting beach, and all 200 kilometers of them are under protection as an MPA and the World Heritage Sites. The beach ban as well also bodes well for turtle conservation. Our monitoring methodologies are considered best practice and are shared with other countries, and we have very strong legislation that protects turtles in our waters. And another record, we are now going to be subjected to one of the longest list of acknowledgements for a project. We have to, acknowledge the efforts of everyone that's been party to this. I'd like to start with Dr. Hughes. He's been involved for the entire duration of the program. He's also continues to be involved with it in his retirement and works actively overseas as well with turtles. Like I said, the project is very expensive, and we couldn't have done it without the help of other departments, donors, etc., and organizations that give us data. So thank you all for that. And I'll just go through, I'm not going to go through each one individually, but just for you all to have a look at the number of people, and I believe I've only captured about 60% of them throughout the decades. And while that's going, thank you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Santosh. We've got time for 2 questions. Bruce, no, Ken? Okay.
I said no questions.
Thanks very much, Santosh. Just a quick.
Yes. Tiki, just give Bruce a different name.
Santosh, just a quick one is there any contribution from the tourism now, the people going to see the animals nesting at night, helping with the monitoring program? Is any of the funding that they make?
Thanks, Bruce. Bruce, the turtle tour operators contribute to data collection for us. They monitor a big part of the southern section from Black Rock down to Mabibi. So yes, they do contribute a lot to the data we're getting.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, Santosh, I think I'm going to come with the same question that Tiki was going to ask. When I see a trend like that and a sudden change in a trend like that, have there been any changes in the methodology in the monitoring that could have resulted in that marked shift? You have a very constant increase rate in loggerheads for a long time, and a sudden switch and a constant sudden switch. And I'm wondering if that is reflective of a change in methodology. And Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask a very quick second question. What happens to the north of Ponta de Oro, Mozambique-wise? Any monitoring? What's happening up there? Thank you.
I can't. Thanks, Ken. I'm just trying to get that slide back. But, okay, I'll just speak. There was a change in monitoring methodology, but just for 1 year, where turtles were, prior to this change in methodology, every single turtle that was encountered was tagged irrespective of their position on the beach. The change in methodology came in 2003, where the turtles were allowed to nest first, lay the eggs, and then be tagged. So what happened, there was a slight dip. But then after that, that remained constant, and it continued going right up. There are a couple of experiments being done right now. One of the theories is that the beaches might be producing more females because of the beach temperatures. So far, for loggerheads, it looks like that is the case. But it's been written up right now. So we might have beaches that are producing females and are favoring loggerheads as well. Oh yeah, sorry. Mozambique has started with a conservation program that's run mainly by NGOs. They've got much more challenges than us. Their entire coast is a nesting area. I think they're dealing with about 4 species. They have problems with poaching. Well, artisanal fisheries, bycatch, everything. But they are trying. They're not getting much support from their governments. But yeah, I mean, but they are getting the word out and increasing the awareness towards turtle conservation.
Thank you. Thank you, Santosh.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.